Just to give a little bit of a backstory. When I was 5 years old, I moved in with my grandparents. They lived in an apartment where the last resident hanged himself. My grandpa was a drunk. My grandma had so many jobs. She wasn't home at night. I spent my nights alone because my grandpa would always just pass out. I always felt like someone was watching me at night. I moved into my first own apartment when I was only 15. Weird as it sounds, the last resident died in that apartment before I moved here. This is the present moment. I've encountered weird events in my whole life. Doors opening, footsteps, unexplained noises, and sounds, time after time. I am used to this over the years. There were times when nothing happened for years, until now, and this time, it feels more hostile. Events started about a few months back. I have moved many times in these years, and I have lived in this apartment for about 2 of them. I heard footsteps at night, weird banging in doors and walls, doors open by themselves. That feeling when someone is watching you is back, but doesn't feel the same. It feels like it's chasing me. I've tried to catch something on video, but I haven't had any luck yet. What do you think that this could be? My name is Adrian. I'm 29 years old, and I'm from Hungary. And I only talked to a handful of people about this ever. It started when I was just 15 years old. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we were drinking in the back of my school. We were on the brink of breaking up. We got drunk, talked a lot, and we did break up that night. It was late, so I decided to take her to her place. It wasn't that far. I took her home and kissed her one last time. Then she just closed the door on me, leaving me absolutely devastated at that very spot. She happened to live near our town graveyard, and I got this stupid idea in my drunken, depressed head to go into the graveyard and sit on a tomb. I did just that. I was sitting there for about 45 minutes in the dark, in the middle of the graveyard at around 1 a.m. During this time, a fox came to me and I pet him, unaware that it could be rabbit or something. I wasn't thinking about this. Only later when I was like, I'm such an idiot. It could have bit me because one of the symptoms of rabies is that the affected animals are friendlier. But I just pet him a little and he left me. When I decided it was enough sitting there, I went home and I got home no problem. Nothing strange happened that night. Some days later, the boys and I were hanging out in front of my old school. We decided to make a group photo. There were like 10 of us. One of the friends took a picture and that was when the first strange thing happened. Everyone looked normal except me. My eyes are shining on the picture. We found it strange, but we thought it was just maybe the lighting because it was nighttime and the only light source was the school's lamps at the entrance, which were always on at night. I switched places with one of my other friends, but my eyes kept glowing in every picture, wherever I stood. We thought it was strange and freaked out a little bit, but there was nothing we could do about it. I didn't think much of it at the time either. It was around that time when I started to feel uneasy, and just in general. I had mood swings and I felt like someone was watching me all the time. For example, when I was playing on my PC in my room, my closet was behind me and there was a 1/2 meter wide gap between my closet and the corner of the room. That spot was pitch black, and I felt that someone was in there. I had this strong feeling to turn around and check the spot a lot, but sometimes I didn't have the courage because I was sure that if I turned around, I might see something that will scare the shit out of me. I was terrified, for seemingly no reason at all. Haven't had any bad feelings about this ever. This feeling became the norm for me, this constant dread when I was alone. I started to see things from the corner of my eyes too. I was walking home from school when I saw a severed head on top of a car for a split second out of nowhere in broad daylight. Of course, there was nothing when I looked straight to it. Saw figures randomly, human-like figures, but only half of them. I saw only the lower half of them, under the torso part. But I somehow felt their gender. I could feel it, but these were only for seconds. I heard voices out of nowhere for split seconds only. The shrieking scream of a man most of the time. I was having a rough time. I didn't talk to anyone about it, not even my parents. I lived with my father at the time, and it wasn't the best between us at all. My mother was abroad at times, and we didn't talk much either. I was searching about these symptoms I had the past couple of weeks, and I found this page about possession. I believed in the paranormal anyway, but when I read about this stuff, that possession can occur when you are in a weak mental state, depressed, drunk, or just near a site where someone lost their lives like an accident or cemetery. Well, I got almost everything checked. Being in a cemetery drunk, a freshly broken up, and depressed, I was like an open door for any spirit, according to the site. The site even mentioned the glowing eye. It meant that there's more than one spirit in the body when that happens, or something like that. Creepy. I started documenting the things happening, or at least I tried to, and I had success. I'm pretty sure I saved everything on a CD, if I remember right. Videos, pictures, and I even attempted a EVP recording, but that CD and my old PC, which may contain this stuff, are somewhere in my father's house still, with some of my old stuff, but I haven't been there for 9 years now. There were pictures I made of my face, for example, and on the picture, there was my face, but there was another half face. It looked like it was coming out of mine. It was foggy, but you could spot the major shapes of a face. That was the only picture I showed my father out of everything. He called bullshit, so I didn't bother anymore after that. I made a video recording in my room where there was a huge storm outside. I pretty much just hovered the camera over my lit room slowly. It was about a 20-second video. After that, I uploaded it to my PC and opened it with a video editor and checked frame by frame. When I got to my door, in the vid, it happens in like 5 frames. I had a glass door. The lower half was wood, and the upper is this rigid glass, so I could only see silhouettes in front of it when it was closed. By its height, a childlike figure leaned on the glass door from the outside of nowhere and put her left arms on the glass. She had these black eyes, and her mouth was black, blacker than black. It was open like she was screaming. Then she disappeared, just the way that she appeared. It happened so quickly. I could barely see it in normal speed after I slowed the video down and knew what to look for, but I cut the video and slowed it down at the door. I wanted to show it to my closest friends. I did show it to them, along with the EVP, and they freaked out and got scared of me. I kept hanging out with them, but they were kind of cautious towards me. They didn't know how to deal with these things of mine. We didn't really talk about it because I just enjoyed their company, and the more I was with friends, the less time I had spent in dread. I didn't want to alienate them in front of me. About the EVP, it was just a quick impulse one night to make it. I started the voice recording on my phone and kept talking for like 10 minutes about these things that are happening to me and the feelings I had. When I listened to the recording the next day, I was blown away. It could sound cliche, but during the recording, I asked, "Please give me a sign." And I could hear a male voice talking over my voice when I said, "Sign." I gave it. His voice was like he was shouting it, but from afar. That voice was so scary, and I can still remember it so clearly. If I ever go and visit my father, I will dig through my old stuff and I will try to find these proofs for sure, because it's so annoying now that I can't show you. There was more stuff happening throughout the 4-month period, and I can go into greater detail about my dreams and other happenings later, but I want to tell you how all of this ended. It ended with a dream. I was in the middle of a small town, and I only remembered that I was laying on the ground face up, and I couldn't move. Above me were 3 old lady figures. All 3 of them had this mosaic face, a pure red, a blue, and a yellow colored face, and they were talking about something. I don't remember exactly, only the last sentence, "Leave him. He's suffered enough already." I woke up, and all of the bad feelings, every strange happening, just disappeared. And I haven't had anything like that happen to me ever since. I think I was possessed. Everything points towards that, and I never sought any help from any professional or anyone else. Never had any health problems before or after this. I'm physically and mentally healthy. Have been all my life. I didn't have to go to the hospital, ever. Maybe I just got lucky, and the spirit got bored of me. But then, I don't understand my dream. Who were the old ladies? And why did they convince the spirit to stop torturing me? I checked into this hotel room with my family Friday night. It's now very, very early on Sunday. A dream I had woke me up, and since I can't go back to sleep, I'll start off by saying I'm generally not plagued by nightmares, and I definitely don't have an auditory hallucinations. Last night, laying down to go to sleep, I've been hearing whispers. Thought I was just tired, but now I think it's something more. Yesterday, my mom said I was crying out in my sleep. I was having nightmares that night. About a half an hour ago, I woke up sobbing, soaked in my own tears. I had just witnessed my daughter's death and attended her funeral in extreme detail. For reference, I do have a daughter. She's 1.5 and asleep right next to me. In my dream, she was murdered by a bomb of some sort that hurt others, but she was first impact. And if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, at her funeral, she was walking around like normal. The funeral itself was weird, as there wasn't many people, and I know for a fact that a lot would come to my daughters. She was holding the hand of someone, but when she noticed me, she smiled and ran over. I picked her up and smelled the top of her head and was heartbroken to realize she now smelled like embalming fluid. So I took a picture with her to capture one last memory. When I looked at it, I realized I was sitting all alone. All that combined reality solidified that she was really gone. It's hard to describe. The feelings of hopelessness and despair and gut-wrenching profound sadness, they still linger.
Just want to say, I'm so sorry if you've ever lost a child. I can't imagine your pain, and I'm sending you all the love that I have. I texted my friend about it, and she definitely believes it's haunted, and that thought hadn't even crossed my mind until she mentioned it. Last month, I opened my phone to the recent gut-wrenching news that my friend got shot and killed, and I have no words to describe the mind-boggling, earth-shattering pain. Last night, something happened when I was in my room, and all of a sudden, I felt as if an unknown yet oddly familiar presence was inside my apartment, causing a brand new surge of energy. Then all of a sudden, my cat I named after my friend started acting up and rubs on my face a lot harder than I usually remember. And then my cat, with his new profound energy, kicked over my heavy trash can to the ground. Something I didn't think was possible for him to do at all. I then felt a sense of security and as if everything was going to be okay before my intuition started telling me to get some sleep for the night. As if it was coming from him, my friend that was shot and killed. Okay, so about a month and a half ago, I was house sitting for my friend. Us being the dumb 17 and 19-year-olds, we decided to watch the first two Conjuring movies, an Annabelle creation. Scary movies don't really get to me, but for some reason, I felt like I was being watched. They left the next day before I woke up, so that was the last horror movie that was watched. The second to last day, they were gone. I had my grandma order a pizza and it was to be delivered. It was, and that was the only person who was supposed to be knocking. The next day happens, and in the late afternoon, I'm watching some random Netflix movie and there's a very faint knock. I almost didn't hear it, but I paused my show, and again, the same light knocking. Their dog, Egypt, let out a low growl and the cat ran from the couch. It was weird because, like I said, no one was supposed to be knocking. I was standing, frozen in fear. I waited for another knock. 15 seconds later, there was the same light knock. I opened the door. Their dog, Egypt, excited to see if anyone was there. No one. So I closed the door, extremely spooked. Then after closing and locking it, I hear it, my name, but in my friend's voice. It was very faint and sounded like it was coming from outside the apartment. Now I'm looking outside, still having a dog curious about who's there. But no, absolutely not a single person there. I closed the door, locking it after me. Later that night, my friend and his family comes home, and I tell them about the strange encounter. Spencer, who is into witchcraft, gets a piece of incense and immediately cleanses the room. He told me that he's seen shadow figures out of the corner of his eye in this new place. I told them about my uneasiness about the bathroom, and he said that he feels the exact same way about it. I caught COVID in November last year, for the first time after a trip to the dentist. My family thought it was better for me to isolate next door in the Annex. So, then since that day, I lived next door. My grandma died 2 years ago because of cancer, and the Annex was where she used to live. The whole house is over 300 years old, and I've never experienced anything paranormal. That was until the 24th of February. On that day, around almost 1 a.m., I was on voice call to my friends on the bed laughing and all that. Then suddenly I saw a black shadow pass the door in the other room, immediately drawing my attention. I saw it from the corner of my eye until I eventually caught a glimpse of the figure past the halfway open door. It looked as if someone had broken in, dressed in black. That's how obvious it looked, especially with the light in the other room and bathroom was on. That room is filled with creepy paintings, small statues, and boxes, which then leads to the bathroom. I thought someone was hiding in that room, so I ran next door and woke my father up. He checked and said nothing was there. Everything was shut. There was no way someone could break in without us knowing. I wasn't convinced, so I slept with a knife next to me at 5 a.m. My family thought I was hallucinating, but I never was. A month later at 3 a.m., I put my phone down where I usually would and tried to sleep. 20 minutes later, I heard something in the room drop. It came from behind me. I got up and had a look and saw my phone on the floor. Nothing was near the table, nor was it near the edge. Vibrate mode was off, so how could it have fallen off? It has to be pushed off to fall, considering nothing has touched the phone for 20 minutes. There was a distance between the table and my bed. Nothing was near it, nor was it slippery after checking it myself. A few days later, my mother said at the dinner table that she had a dream of my grandma speaking to someone. It was either me or my aunt. She said she was complaining about why she didn't have a gravestone yet, and why didn't we say Happy Mother's Day to her. My mother doesn't believe in this kind of stuff, so it didn't really all make sense, but in the end, I knew it was my grandma that came to visit that night. I don't know where I should be posting this, but this is the first thing that came to mind, because it seems kind of paranormal. It isn't scary or anything, just weird. So this all started a couple months ago, maybe towards the end of 2021. I used to work at a cafe close to where I live, and one night I had a dream that I was standing in the cafe I worked at, but it looked completely different than how it is. Different paint on the walls, tables in different positions and in different areas than usual. Different workers, everything was just so different, but I could recognize it was the cafe I worked at. I worked there for 5 years, so I knew where everything was. The coffee machine was in the same spot, the fireplace in the same spot with the same couches. In the dream, I was standing at the coffee machine when the barista told me to take a coffee into the side room of the cafe. So I grabbed it and took it over. I woke up and didn't think much of it. Well, a couple weeks later, the cafe gets bought by someone, and we had a week or two off work for them to redecorate the cafe to their vision for the place. Well, on my first day, I walk in and feel a kind of familiarity about the place and chalked it up to, well, I've worked here for 5 years. It may look different, but it's the same building. At some point in the first week of the new ownership, I'm standing at the coffee machine, and the barista asks me to take a coffee over to the table in the side room of the cafe. As I grabbed the coffee and turned to walk into the side room, I had a massive wave of deja vu, but it was so much stronger. If you guys have ever felt deja vu, imagine that feeling and make it stronger by about 10 times. I was standing in the exact spot as I was in the dream. The design looked the same as the dream. Even the workers looked the same as my dream. And that was my first time meeting them. My whole mind was blurry. I couldn't think of anything besides, I've been here. I have done this. Not a feeling of, I feel like I've done this, but the feeling of, I have done this. Next dream I had, and sorry I don't have exact dates because I didn't think this would become some sort of regular occurrence. Anyway, now this dream also takes place before the cafe I worked at got bought by someone. I had a dream I was sitting in my bed with a girlfriend I didn't even have yet. I knew she was a girlfriend, or at least someone I felt comfortable with, because I felt calm, secure, and warm, just sitting there on my bed. We were talking about something, and the conversation that led us to the conversation of what porn I watch, we laughed. I told her I woke up. I thought it was a bit of a weird dream because who the hell dreams about telling someone what porn they watch, but I went on with my life. Well, cut forward to when the cafe gets bought. I met a girl there. She was cool. I planned on quitting my job there and trying to find something else with my life to do for work. On my last day, I gave this girl my phone number and we got to talking and eventually started hanging out a bunch and getting closer and closer. Guess what? We're sitting on my bed. Same positions on my bed. Same hairstyle. Same colored hair. Same smiling. Same feeling as the dream, and we were just talking. And eventually the conversation wound up her asking me what porn I watch. We laughed. I told her again. Massive wave of deja vu hit me like a truck. Now, it's not weird for someone you're seeing to be interested in the porn you watch, but it's weird that it was exactly how it was in my dream. Next, I'm still seeing the girl. We have made it official by this point. It's my birthday and my mother is driving me, my girlfriend and my two best friends to a local pub so we could drink and not need to worry about someone being the designated driver and needing to hold back their alcohol. I'm sitting in the middle of the back seats, and as we drove past some random tree, I have a massive wave of deja vu and I ask, "Hey guys, have we ever been driven somewhere in these exact seats, going this exact direction to the exact pub?" Everyone says no. Now this doesn't sound weird, but look at it like this. It's my 20th birthday. I haven't been in my mom's car since I was 17 and didn't have my license. When I was 17, I wasn't even friends with one of my friends yet, and I sure as hell wasn't dating this girl because I only met her a couple months ago. My next dream. I had quit my cafe job and I was unemployed for maybe 2 to 3 months. I had enough savings and I was just trying to go out as much as I could because I didn't have much time off when I was working, so I spent Christmas and all of that with my family and just went out drinking with friends and hung out with them a whole lot, but all of this is besides the point. During my unemployment, I had a dream I worked somewhere with one of my female friends. In the dream, I was standing in the kitchen. She was just polishing some cutlery and talking. In the conversation, I said a joke. She laughed and then I woke up and I just laid there like, why am I dreaming of her laughing to some dumb joke I said? Eventually, she sent me a Facebook post about her work hiring and she told me to apply, and I thought, fuck it. Working with one of my close friends sounds kind of nice. I got the job and started working in the bar. After about 2 weeks, my boss sat me down and told me he was really happy with my work, and the story goes on. Just stroking my ego, and then told me he wants to put me into some different departments so he could get me some more hours. I said, yeah, that sounds nice. And he started putting me into the kitchen. Well, after maybe 2 weeks of being in the kitchen, I worked with my female friend. We're standing there, polishing some cutlery, and just chatting because it wasn't busy. I said a joke, the same joke as my dream. She laughed, and again, a massive wave of deja vu to the point where I had to put my hand onto the table to hold myself up. The last time was a couple weeks ago, where me and my two mates were out drinking at a pub I hadn't been to since I was like 8 and not able to drink. Me and my two mates were standing up at the bar, and I got really fixated on staring out the window behind it and looking at the beach, and again, deja vu, which was weird because again, I haven't been there since I was like 8. These are also the only dreams I remember. I feel like there is more, but I'm slowly forgetting them. Since then, I haven't had a dream about my future. It kind of all happened at once, and I haven't had one in a little while. If anyone knows what this is, and if there's anywhere else I can post this, please let me know. I work as a private banker, and I really like it. I usually get off at my designated time, which is 5 p.m. I just went on vacation, so I had to catch up on some work and decided to stay late and get stuff done. The way my office is, it has 3 computers in it, 2 on my desk and my laptop behind me for personal use. I went to go send an email to my boss that I had stayed late. I heard footsteps behind me, and I assumed it was one of my coworkers and told them 1 second. I saw a very tall and black figure walk past on the reflection of my laptop. Like, whoever this was about 7 feet tall. I turn around so fast, and nobody is there. I get up and look out of my office both ways, and I see nobody. I tried ignoring it, but I just couldn't shake the feeling. I hurried and finished my work as quickly as I possibly could, and I just left. I honestly never want to work late again. This all happened over 10 years ago when I was in middle school, and so far is the only real physical paranormal experience I've ever had. Before this experience, my only belief in the supernatural or paranormal was religious-based, and I have since become agnostic. One of my teachers was a ghost hunter and invited me and a couple other students on an investigation to a well-known historical building in our town. We began the night sitting in a circle around a flashlight that was pointing at the wall. My teacher gave a blessing of sorts and invited any presence to communicate through the flashlight. We did this through many rooms in the house, and it was such a visceral feeling seeing the light change. After moving to another room where a young girl supposedly died, I had my first physical experience. We sat in chairs around the room with our hands held palm up as an inviting gesture. My friend sitting next to me mentioned her legs started to feel cold, and after a minute or two, mine did as well. It felt like 2 lines of coldness, as if someone was sitting sideways across my lap. I then felt the air between my open hands change, like if you were to hold 2 magnets of the same pole together, almost vibrational. I felt this in between my fingers as well, like someone was holding my hands. According to my teacher who was filming, there was an orb on my lap. Eventually, I pulled my hands away and the orb flew through the wall and the air and temperature went back to normal. In the basement, there was a particular presence that supposedly had been talked to before about essentially harassing females, but I volunteered to approach his area anyway. After a minute, I felt like I was being rocked back and forwards, like something was behind me and pushing and pulling my shoulders. After going back upstairs to end the night, the rocking feeling didn't go away. My teacher was concerned because this presence had never been recorded or experienced outside of the basement. So he pulled me aside into a private room and told me to begin praying if I was religious. He put his hand on top of my head and basically commanded any spirits to leave me and not to follow me out. I distinctly remember his hand being very hot when he took it off my head, and the rocking feeling being gone.
So, some backstory. I've never really believed in demons or entities. Always been atheist and a materialist. No history of mental illness, and I'm completely sober. So, a few years ago, I started getting into religion out of curiosity and wanted to explore whether there's more out there. I was reading deep into Christianity and various other religious writings. Also, some occultism type stuff. Meditating on it and trying to believe in it as to try to experience what religious folk called God. Thinking if I align myself with the belief system and get into the right headspace, I might be able to get a sign and experience God. I was also going to church out of curiosity. As I got deeper into it all and started to believe in some of the fundamental premises, like there being a God, the existence of bad entities and good entities, and feeling like I'm getting closer to God, I started having really bizarre dreams. In the dreams, it was like my whole body would start feeling warm and vibrate. Almost like an orgasm, it felt really good. And it would get more and more intense to the point it felt like I was going to leave my body. But at the same time, it felt like there was something trying to get me to leave my body so it could use my body for something. It would always scare me to the point I tried to fight it and stay in my body, and then I'd wake up. One time, this happened, but in the dream, it was everyone being filled with this feeling and something trying to pull everyone out of their bodies so something else could take over. It got so overwhelmingly intense, like something was literally pulling me out of my body. I fought it till I woke up, and I woke up with blood pouring out of my nose. Fast forward to like a week after the last intense dream. I was driving on a country road, and I suddenly felt something heavy come over my mind, like something had attached itself to my consciousness. It felt warm and good. It was getting more and more intense to the point I felt bliss. And I felt like I was being tugged on and I could leave my body. That's when it started to get overwhelming. And like I was losing consciousness. It went from feeling benevolent, like God, trying to get me to rapture or something, to malevolent, like something was trying to make me lose consciousness and crash. Started to fight it and stay in my body, stay conscious. And then my radio started saying, "Let go. It's your last chance to go home." And it was repeating itself, but it wasn't in a scary voice. It's hard to explain, but it sounds like an actual singer that was on the radio. I ended up having to force myself to pull over, and then it all stopped. And I saw a fox standing like 10 meters away, just sitting there, watching me. I started driving again, slowly, and it was literally walking parallel to my car, watching me. I asked my girlfriend if the radio went weird, and she said it was normal the whole time. After this, I stopped involving myself in any religious stuff and any type of spiritualism. I was scared, and then it never happened again. Those dreams disappeared, and I never had any other frightening experience. Since then, though, whenever I've told people about this experience, I get a weird shivering up my spine, and I feel fear. A few weeks ago, I was messaging someone and telling them my story, and my 2-year-old suddenly woke up beside me, hysterical, and I was asking him what was wrong, and he was pointing at something in my room and seemed completely terrified. It took him ages to calm down. I was debating whether to post or not, but maybe someone else has had a similar experience. I still remain completely skeptical because I know how powerful the human mind is, but I really can't explain the experience I had. The auditory hallucinations, the overwhelming feeling that came over me, the coincidence of the fox, and it all stopped as soon as I stepped away from the religious and spiritual stuff. Thank you everyone for listening. If your story was told, I'm glad I'm the one who could tell it. I appreciate all the love and support, and I hope you enjoyed today's stories.